For nearly 3,000 years, the city of Troy was considered a fantasy, a place invented by a blind poet to stage a war between men and gods. Scholars were certain Troy never existed. And then, in the 1870s, a man obsessed with an ancient poem drove his shovel into a hill in Turkey and struck a wall that should not have been there. This is the true story behind the myth. The legend comes from Homer's Iliad. A Trojan prince steals the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen, the wife of a Greek king. Enraged, 1,000 Greek ships sail east. For 10 years they lay siege to the great walled city of Troy, while the gods themselves take sides. It is one of the oldest stories we have. And for centuries, everyone agreed it was pure invention. Everyone except Heinrich Schliemann. A wealthy businessman turned amateur archaeologist, Schliemann was convinced the Iliad was a memory, not a myth. Where scholars saw poetry, he saw a map. And he was willing to spend his entire fortune to prove that a real Troy was waiting to be found, buried somewhere beneath the plains of western Turkey. Following clues hidden in the ancient text, a coastline, 2 rivers, a windswept plain, Schliemann zeroed in on a low mound called Hisarlik, near the mouth of the Dardanelles, the narrow strait connecting the Aegean to the Black Sea. It was the perfect place to control trade between 2 worlds. If Troy was anywhere, it was here. What he uncovered stunned everyone. Beneath the hill lay not one city, but 9, each built on the ruins of the last, stacked across more than 3,500 years of history. Archaeologists labeled them Troy 1 through Troy 9. But that raised a new question. If there were 9 Troys, which one was Homer's? The best candidate is a layer called Troy 7a, dating to around 1250 BC. It shows exactly what you would expect from a city that lost a war: massive defensive walls, hastily built shelters crammed inside, stockpiles of food, and scattered across the ground, bronze arrowheads and sling stones. The unmistakable fingerprints of a siege. And then, fire. Schliemann, though, made a spectacular mistake. Digging greedily downward, he found a dazzling hoard of gold and declared it the treasure of Priam, the Trojan king. There was just one problem. The gold belonged to Troy too, a city that had crumbled more than 1,000 years before the Trojan War. In his rush, Schliemann had blasted straight through Homer's Troy, and out the other side. So if there was a war, what was it really about? Almost certainly not a stolen bride. Troy sat guarding the Dardanelles, the gateway to the riches of the East. Whoever held it controlled the flow of grain, metal, and trade. The Mycenaean Greeks were a warlike, expanding power, and a wealthy rival city blocking their path was reason enough. The face that launched 1,000 ships may really have been a toll booth. Whatever sparked it, the archaeology is clear on how it ended. Troy 7a was violently destroyed, burned to the ground, its people killed or scattered. A thriving Bronze Age city, reduced to ash. Somewhere in that destruction, a real event was seared into memory, and passed down by word of mouth for 500 years, before Homer ever set it to verse. But what about the most famous part, the Trojan horse? Here, history goes quiet. No trace of a giant wooden horse has ever been found, and it probably never existed. Some think it is a metaphor for a siege engine. Others point to something stranger. The god blamed for Troy's fall, Poseidon, was also the god of earthquakes, and Troy sits on a fault line. The horse may have been the earth itself, shaking the walls down. It helps to see the whole story on a timeline. The war, around 1250 BC. Homer composing the Iliad from oral legend, roughly 500 years later. Schliemann's shovel, in 1871. And now, in 2026, a new retelling on the big screen. Each version reshapes the last, memory becoming myth, myth becoming history, and back again. So, was Troy real? The honest answer is partly. The gods, the horse, a war fought over one woman's face, that is myth. But a powerful city at Hisarlik, a Mycenaean world hungry for its wealth, a brutal siege, and a city consumed by fire, that is history. Homer wove real events and pure imagination into a single tapestry so tightly that, 3,000 years later, we are still pulling the threads apart. Subscribe to Curio. Uncover wonder you never noticed.